My daughter texted me, "You're not invited to dinner. Derek doesn't want you here." My name is Phyllis Gardner. I'm 65 years old with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. That text came from Simone, the daughter I bought a $485,000 condo for, the daughter who promised to care for me when my memory started failing. What Simone didn't know was that I just found something in her briefcase. Legal papers with my name on them. Papers giving her control over every dollar I have, every decision I make, every breath I take. Simone thinks having Alzheimer's makes you helpless. She's wrong. It just makes people underestimate you. And when someone tries to steal everything from their own mother, especially when that mother spent 45 years as a CPA catching fraud, they're about to learn an expensive lesson. Hit subscribe to see how this ends, because what I did next shocked everyone. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's at age 63. Dr. Elizabeth Carter at Sarasota Neurological Associates explained it simply. "Phyllis, your brain is changing. Some days will be clearer than others. We'll monitor the progression, but you need to prepare for what's coming." She was right. On bad days, I might stand in my kitchen holding my car keys, wondering why I'm there. Last month, I got confused at Publix and couldn't remember my PIN number at the checkout. The cashier, a young white woman, spoke to me slowly and loudly like I was a child. "Ma'am, do you need me to call someone for you?" Simone was with me that day. "Mom, this is embarrassing," she whispered as we left, her eyes darting around to see who was watching. "People are staring. You can't keep doing this." My daughter Simone works as a financial advisor at Pinnacle Wealth Management, makes about $82,000 a year, drives a leased BMW 330i, and talks constantly about building generational wealth. Her husband Derek runs a boutique gym called Elite Fitness Sarasota. He has 3,400 Instagram followers and spends most of his time posting shirtless workout videos with motivational quotes about grinding and success. When my husband Lawrence died 3 years ago, he left me with difficult decisions. Keep the 4-bedroom house in Newtown where we'd raise Simone, downsize, move closer to family. Simone had a different idea. "Mom, you should buy us a condo," she said over dinner at the Capitol Grill. Derek sat beside her, nodding eagerly. "Think about it. You liquidate your investments, we get something nice downtown, and when the time comes, well, it stays in the family. You'd be setting us up right." I love the idea of helping. That's what mothers do, especially Black mothers who worked their whole lives to create opportunities their children could build on. So I sold everything. My Boeing retirement portfolio that I'd built over 45 years, Lawrence's life insurance settlement, even our wedding rings, though that hurt more than I expected. Total, $485,000. I bought Simone and Derek a beautiful 2-bedroom waterfront condo in downtown Sarasota. Granite countertops, marina view, stainless steel appliances, everything they wanted. "You're the best mom ever," Simone said when I handed her the deed. She hugged me tight, and for a moment, I felt like I'd done something right, like I'd secured her future the way my parents never could for me. I moved into a small senior apartment in the Rosemary district, 1,100 square feet, $825 monthly rent. I kept my 2019 Honda Accord, my weekly pill organizer with 5 medications daily, and a fireproof filing cabinet containing 45 years of client tax returns and financial records. Old habits from my CPA days. Always keep the documentation. I was the first Black woman CPA at Henderson and Associates back in 1982. The partners didn't want to hire me. Too risky, they said. Clients won't trust a colored girl with their money. But I scored highest on the certification exam that year, and they couldn't ignore that. So they hired me, stuck me in the back office, and waited for me to fail. I didn't fail. I worked twice as hard as everyone else, took the clients nobody wanted, and built a reputation for catching discrepancies that other accountants missed. By the time I retired at 63, I was handling accounts for half the black churches in Sarasota County, dozens of small businesses, and families who trusted me with their financial futures. Lawrence used to say, "Baby, you got a gift for seeing what people trying to hide." He was right. Numbers don't lie, people do. And I'd spent 45 years learning to spot the difference. But here's what I noticed over the past 15 months. Simone's visits became shorter. Derek stopped making eye contact. Last Christmas, they hosted a holiday party at the condo I bought them. I wasn't invited. Derek posted Instagram stories from the event. The caption read, "Celebrating with the real ones who support our journey." The real ones. Not me, apparently. Then came the small humiliations. Simone speaking to me like I was a child who couldn't understand basic concepts. "Mom, did you take your pills today? Mom, do you remember what we talked about? Mom, you need to write things down because you forget." Derek started filming TikTok videos about setting boundaries with toxic family members. "Sometimes the people who drain your energy the most are the ones who raised you," he said into the camera, his face serious and inspirational. "It's okay to protect your peace." 3 weeks ago, I had what Dr. Carter calls an episode at their condo. I'd driven over because I thought it was Lawrence's birthday. Got confused about the year, started looking for him, couldn't remember where I was. Derek recorded it on his phone. "See?" He showed the video to Simone later, not knowing I could hear them from the bathroom. "This is what I'm talking about. Your mom needs professional care. She's not safe living alone." Simone nodded, her voice tight. "You're right. She's getting worse. We need to do something before she hurts herself or someone else." But here's the thing about early-stage Alzheimer's that people don't understand. Having memory problems doesn't erase 45 years of professional experience. It doesn't eliminate your ability to recognize patterns, read financial documents, or detect when someone's running a con. And last Tuesday, September 12th, during one of my clearest days in months, I made a discovery that changed everything. Simone had left her briefcase open on their kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. At least, I told myself I wasn't. But I saw a manila folder labeled Mom Legal Matters, and something in my gut, that same instinct that caught embezzlement for 45 years, told me to look. The first document was a guardianship petition, case number CV20242156. 26 pages of legal forms requesting the court declare Phyllis Gardner mentally incompetent and award full conservatorship to Simone Gardner. Filing date, September 18th. That was 6 days away. The second document was a brochure for Pine Grove Memory Care, monthly cost $2,900, the cheapest memory care facility in Sarasota County. I'd driven past it once. Beige building with bars on the windows, small rooms, understaffed. The kind of place where people go to be forgotten. But what stopped my heart was the third document, a financial assessment listing my assets to be placed under conservatorship. My remaining bank account, $315,000, my Honda Accord, my personal belongings. And somehow, listed right there on the page, the waterfront condo I'd bought for Simone and Derek. How does that work? I bought them a home, transferred the deed, gave them everything, and now they're claiming it as my asset that needs protection? I took photos of every page with my phone. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear, clearer than it had been in weeks. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a bad day. This was fraud. And I'd spent 45 years of my life learning exactly how to prove it. I heard the shower turn off. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, my CPA training kicking in. Never let them know you know, not until you have all the evidence. "Mom?" Simone came out in her bathrobe, her hair wrapped in a towel. "I didn't know you were here. Did we have plans?" "No, baby. I just wanted to drop off those recipes you asked for, the ones for your grandma's sweet potato pie." I hadn't brought any recipes. Simone knew I hadn't brought any recipes, but she smiled anyway, that tight smile she'd been giving me for months. "Oh, right. Thanks, Mom. You can just leave them on the counter." "Actually, I think I left them at home. I'll bring them next time." "Sure, Mom. Whatever you say." That's when I knew, the way she said "whatever you say" like she was humoring a confused old woman who couldn't keep track of her own thoughts. Like my words didn't matter because soon, very soon, she'd have legal control over every word I spoke. I drove home to my small apartment, my mind racing. 6 days until the hearing. 6 days to figure out how to fight back. 6 days to prove that having Alzheimer's doesn't make you helpless. It just makes people underestimate you. And Simone had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She'd underestimated a woman who'd spent 45 years catching people who thought they were smarter than the system. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with the photos from Simone's briefcase spread across my laptop screen. I made myself a cup of tea, the kind Lawrence used to make for me when I was working late on a difficult case, and I started doing what I do best. I started building a case. The guardianship petition listed my cognitive decline, episodes of confusion, inability to manage finances. It included statements from Dr. Carter's office, though I suspected those statements were selectively quoted. It included a sworn affidavit from Derek Morrison stating that I'd become a danger to myself and others. A danger to myself and others, me, a woman who'd never gotten so much as a speeding ticket in her entire life. But the most damning evidence was the financial section. It claimed I'd made irrational financial decisions, including giving away a $485,000 property without proper documentation or legal protection. It suggested I was vulnerable to exploitation and needed a conservator to protect my remaining assets. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were using my gift to them as proof that I couldn't manage my own money. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder I'd been keeping since the day I bought them that condo. Bank statements showing the wire transfer, the deed transfer documents, emails from Simone thanking me, promising this was an investment in our family's future. Text messages where she'd assured me this would help secure my care when the time came. "We'll always take care of you, Mom. You're giving us this house, and we're giving you peace of mind. You'll never end up in some state facility. We promise." Promises. I'd built my career understanding that promises mean nothing without documentation. And I had documentation. I also found something else in my files, something I'd forgotten about until now. 2 years ago, when I was first diagnosed, I'd met with Margaret Torres, an estate attorney whose taxes I'd done for years. Margaret had insisted I set up proper legal protections. "Phyllis," she'd said in her office downtown, "you need to think ahead. With a diagnosis like this, you're vulnerable. People, even family, might try to take advantage. Let me set you up with a durable power of attorney, a living trust, advance directives. We'll make sure you're protected." I'd been resistant. "Margaret, I don't need all that. Simone will take care of me. She's my daughter." "I'm sure she will," Margaret had said carefully. "But let's make it official. Let's make sure everything is documented properly. That's what you always taught your clients, right? Document everything?" She was right. I'd signed the papers, established a revocable living trust with me as trustee, named Nancy Wilson, my former secretary and friend of 30 years, as my backup trustee if I became incapacitated. Set up advance medical directives stating my wishes for care. And most importantly, I'd included a clause that required any guardianship petition to notify Margaret Torres and Nancy Wilson immediately, required them to be present at any competency hearing, required independent medical evaluation, not just selective quotes from my doctor. Simone didn't know about any of this. I'd filed the papers and forgotten about them, my early Alzheimer's already affecting my memory, but Margaret Torres never forgot anything. That was why she charged $450 an hour. I picked up my phone and called her office. It was 8:30 p.m., but Margaret's cell number was on her business card. She answered on the third ring. "Phyllis, is everything all right?" "Margaret, I need to see you." Tomorrow morning, if possible. It's urgent. There was a pause. This is about the guardianship petition, isn't it? My blood went cold. You know about it? I got a notification this afternoon. The court filing triggered the alert we set up 2 years ago. I was going to call you first thing tomorrow morning. Phyllis, we need to talk about what's happening. Can you meet me at 9 a.m.? Your office? I'll be there at 8:30. Come whenever you're ready. And Phyllis, don't talk to Simone about this yet. Don't let her know you know. Can you do that? Margaret, I spent 45 years investigating fraud. I know how to keep my mouth shut. She laughed, but it was a worried sound. I should have known. See you tomorrow. After we hung up, I sat in my small apartment looking at the photos on my laptop. My daughter was trying to take everything from me, not just my money, my freedom, my dignity, my right to make my own decisions about my own life. And she was doing it by using my illness against me, by taking my worst fear, losing my mind, my independence, myself, and weaponizing it. But Simone had made one critical mistake. She'd forgotten who taught her everything she knew about money, about planning, about documentation. I did. I looked at the calendar on my wall. September 13th. 5 days until the hearing. 5 days to build a case that would prove I was competent enough to fight back. 5 days to show my daughter that you don't con a woman who spent her whole life catching con artists. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Years of writing financial reports, catching discrepancies, building cases against people who thought they were smarter than the numbers. The title of the document: Evidence of Financial Exploitation by Simone Gardner and Derek Morrison. My fingers moved across the keyboard, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like myself again. I met Margaret Torres at 8:45 a.m. the next morning. Her office was in a glass building downtown, the kind of place that charges by the minute just to sit in the waiting room. Margaret came out personally to greet me, her expression serious. "Phyllis, come in. Coffee? Black, 2 sugars." "You remember." "I remember everything. That's why you pay me." She closed the office door behind us. "Now tell me what you know." I showed her the photos on my phone. Every page of the guardianship petition, the Pine Grove brochure, the financial assessment. Margaret's face got tighter with each image. "This is worse than I thought," she said finally. "Phyllis, guardianship proceedings are serious. If the court grants Simone conservatorship, you lose all legal rights. You can't sign contracts, access your own bank accounts, or make medical decisions. You become legally like a child." "I know what it means, Margaret. I've done estate planning for enough families to understand exactly what it means." "Good. Then you understand we have 5 days to build a defense." She pulled out a legal pad. "Let's start with the condo. You said you bought it for them?" $485,000. Wire transfer from my bank account directly to the title company. Deed went straight into Simone's name. No loan, no promissory note, nothing. Margaret winced. "That's a problem. Without documentation showing it was a gift, Simone can argue you were already experiencing cognitive decline when you made that transfer, that it was evidence of impaired judgment, not generosity. But I have emails, text messages, Simone thanking me, promising to take care of me. Doesn't that prove it was intentional?" "It proves you meant to help her. It doesn't prove you were competent to make a $485,000 decision." Margaret leaned forward. "Phyllis, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. When did your symptoms really start?" I thought about that. About the moments I'd hidden from everyone, even Dr. Carter. The times I'd forgotten where I parked at the grocery store. The Sunday I'd driven to church and couldn't remember which church I belonged to. The morning I'd called Simone by my sister's name, who'd been dead for 10 years. Maybe 3 years ago. Small things. I thought it was just stress from losing Lawrence. 3 years ago, and you bought the condo 15 months ago? Yes. Margaret made a note. They're going to argue you were already impaired, that this purchase proves it. Phyllis, I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to be difficult. Your medical records will show cognitive decline. Your own doctor will have to testify about your condition. And the condo transfer, that's exactly the kind of thing that makes judges worry. So what do? We fight back with what you do best. We show documentation. We show pattern. We prove that Simone isn't trying to protect you. She's trying to exploit you. Margaret pulled out another folder. The trust we set up 2 years ago, that's our first weapon. It shows that when you were clearly competent, you took steps to protect yourself. You named Nancy Wilson as backup trustee. Not Simone. Why? I thought about that. Nancy's been my friend for 30 years. She knows me. She knows my values. She wouldn't make decisions based on what's convenient. She'd make them based on what I'd want. And why not Simone? The truth hurt, but I said it anyway. Because even then, something felt off. The way she talked about money, the way she looked at Lawrence's life insurance payout. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things because my brain was changing, but maybe I wasn't imagining anything. Margaret nodded. Trust your instincts. You spent 45 years reading people. That doesn't disappear just because you have Alzheimer's. She made more notes. We need to document everything from the past 15 months. Every interaction. Every promise Simone made. Every time she excluded you or diminished you. Can you do that? I've been keeping a journal. Dr. Carter suggested it, to track my symptoms. But I also wrote down other things. The Christmas party I wasn't invited to. The times Derek posted videos about toxic family members. The day Simone told me I was embarrassing her at Publix. That's good. That's evidence of a pattern. They weren't protecting you. They were distancing themselves from you while positioning themselves to control your assets. Margaret checked her calendar. The hearing is Monday, September 18th. Today is Thursday. We have 4 days. Here's what we need to do. She outlined the strategy. First, file an objection to the guardianship petition. Second, request an independent medical evaluation, not just reliance on Dr. Carter's records. Third, document every communication with Simone and Derek. Fourth, subpoena their financial records to show motive. Subpoena their records? I asked. Phyllis, if we're going to argue they're exploiting you, we need to show why. Are they in debt? Do they have financial problems? What's the motive for this guardianship? Margaret pulled up something on her computer. I did some preliminary research this morning. Derek Morrison's gym, Elite Fitness Sarasota. It's struggling. He took out a business loan 18 months ago for $75,000. He's behind on payments. My stomach dropped. How far behind? 3 months. The bank sent a default notice last month. Margaret turned the screen to show me. And there's more. Simone and Derek applied for a home equity line of credit against the condo. They were approved for $165,000. Against my condo, the one I bought them. The one that's in Simone's name but that you paid for. Yes. And Phyllis, if they can argue that condo was always your asset, that you were incompetent when you transferred it, they can potentially unwind the transfer, claim it back as your property. And then, as your conservator, Simone controls it. She can take out that home equity line legally as your representative. I felt sick. They're not trying to protect me. They're trying to access my assets while making it look legal. Exactly. This isn't about your care. This is about their debt. Margaret closed her laptop. But here's the thing. We can prove it. We can show the timeline. Business loan, financial stress, then suddenly they're pursuing guardianship. That's not coincidence. That's motive. What do I do now? You live your life normally. You take your medications. You show up for your routines. You document everything. And you don't let Simone know that you know. Can you do that? Can you see her and act like nothing's wrong? I thought about Sunday dinners when Simone was little. How she'd help me in the kitchen, how she'd tell me about her dreams, how proud I'd been when she got her finance degree, when she got her job at Pinnacle Wealth, how I'd thought she understood the value of money because I'd taught her. I can do it, I said. Good, because we have one more thing to do. Margaret pulled out her phone. We need to secure your assets before Monday. If Simone suspects you know, she might try to accelerate the timeline. File an emergency petition. We can't let that happen. She called Nancy Wilson, my former secretary. Within an hour, Nancy was at Margaret's office. She looked at me with worried eyes. Phyllis, honey, what's going on? I explained everything. The petition, the debt, the plan. Nancy's face got harder with each word. That girl, she said finally. I watched you raise her. I saw how hard you worked to give her opportunities. And this is how she repays you? Nancy, I need your help. Margaret says we should activate the trust provisions, make you the active trustee until this is resolved. Of course, whatever you need. Margaret had the papers ready. Nancy signed. I signed. Within 2 hours, my assets were protected under the trust structure, with Nancy as trustee. Simone couldn't touch them, even if the guardianship went through. But won't this make the judge think I'm competent? I asked. If I'm competent enough to activate trust provisions? Margaret smiled. Exactly. That's the point. We're going to walk into that courtroom and show that you're competent enough to protect yourself. That you recognized a threat and responded appropriately. That's not incompetence, that's survival. I left Margaret's office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not hope, exactly, but purpose. That evening, my phone rang. Simone's name lit up the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering, trying to sound normal, confused even, the way she expected me to sound. Hi, baby. Mom, Derek and I want to take you to dinner Sunday night. You free? Sunday. 2 days before the hearing, they wanted to see me, probably to assess my condition, maybe to get me to sign something, or maybe just to ease their guilt by pretending everything was fine. That sounds lovely. Where? That Italian place you like, Madison's. 6 p.m.? I'll be there. Great. And Mom? Wear something nice. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? A pause. Just, celebrating family. See you Sunday. She hung up before I could ask more questions. I sat there holding my phone, wondering what they were celebrating. The guardianship petition they thought I didn't know about? The $165,000 home equity line they were planning to take out? My future in a $2,900 a month memory care facility? I called Margaret. They want to have dinner with me Sunday night. Of course they do. They want to see if you're suspicious. They want to make sure you're still the confused old woman they think you are. Can you handle it? I spent 45 years sitting across from clients who'd embezzled from their own companies. I'd smile and talk about the weather while documenting every lie they told me. I can handle dinner with my daughter. Good. Wear a wire. What? Not an actual wire. Just record the conversation on your phone. Florida's a 2-party consent state, but if you're in a public restaurant and they're talking about your care, your finances, your future, that's evidence we need. Just put your phone on the table, recording app open. They won't think twice about it. Confused old lady forgot to put her phone away. You're devious, Margaret. I learned from the best. You taught me to always document everything, remember? Friday and Saturday passed slowly. I went to Mount Zion Baptist Church on Sunday morning like I did every week. Sister Ruth Thompson found me after service. Phyllis, honey, you all right? You seem distracted. Sister Ruth had known me for 35 years. She'd been there when Lawrence died. She'd been there when I got my diagnosis. She knew me better than almost anyone. Just tired, Sister Ruth. Some days are harder than others. She took my hand. The Lord don't give us more than we can bear, baby. You remember that. And if you need anything at all, you call me. You hear? I hear. But I couldn't tell her. Couldn't tell anyone except Margaret and Nancy. Because the fewer people who knew, the less chance something would slip before Monday's hearing. I got to Madison's at 5:55 p.m. Simone and Derek were already there, sitting at a table by the window. Derek wore a tight designer t-shirt that showed off his gym physique. Simone had on a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Mom!" Simone stood up and hugged me. "You look good. I love that dress." It was a simple navy dress from Dillard's that I'd owned for 10 years, but I smiled. "Thank you, baby. You look beautiful." We sat down. Derek ordered wine without asking if I wanted any. The waiter brought bread. We made small talk about the weather, about Derek's gym, about Simone's clients at Pinnacle Wealth, normal family dinner conversation. Then Simone leaned forward, her face serious. "Mom, we need to talk about something important." Here it was. I placed my phone on the table next to my water glass, recording app activated. My hands didn't shake. "What is it, baby?" "Derek and I have been worried about you. About your health. About you living alone. We think it's time to make some changes." "What kind of changes?" "We think you need more support, more structure. Mom, you're forgetting things. You got confused at Publix. You had that episode at our condo. We're scared something's going to happen, and you'll be alone." I let my face show concern, confusion even. "I know I forget things sometimes, but Dr. Carter says that's normal with my condition. She says I'm still doing well." "For now," Derek said. "But what about 6 months from now? A year? Mom, we need to plan ahead. We need to make sure you're safe." Simone reached across the table and took my hand. "We've been looking at places. Nice places where you'd have 24-hour care, where trained professionals could help you." "You want me to go to a nursing home?" "Not a nursing home. A memory care community. Pine Grove. It's lovely, Mom. They have activities, medical staff, everything you'd need." Pine Grove, the $2,900 a month facility, the cheapest one in Sarasota County. "I don't know, baby. I like my apartment. I like my independence." "I know you do, but Mom, you have to be realistic. Your condition is only going to get worse, and we want to make sure you're protected. That's why we filed some paperwork." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "What kind of paperwork?" "Legal documents. To help us take care of you. To make sure your finances are managed properly. To make sure you're safe." Simone squeezed my hand. "Mom, we're doing this because we love you. Because we want what's best for you." "When did you file these documents?" "Earlier this week. There's a hearing on Monday. Just a formality. The judge will review everything and approve the arrangements." "What arrangements?" Derek spoke up. "Simone will become your legal guardian. She'll manage your finances, make medical decisions, all of that. You won't have to worry about anything anymore. We'll take care of everything." I looked at my daughter. At her earnest face, her concerned eyes, her caring expression, and I saw what I'd been refusing to see for months. She wasn't doing this because she loved me. She was doing this because she needed my money. "What if I don't want that?" I asked quietly. Simone's face changed, just slightly. "Mom, you're not thinking clearly. That's exactly why we need to do this. You can't make these kinds of decisions anymore." "But I'm making this decision right now. I'm telling you, I don't want a guardian. I don't want to go to Pine Grove. I want to stay in my apartment." "Mom." Simone's voice got firmer. "This isn't up to you anymore." "What do you mean it's not up to me?" Derek leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed. "What Simone means is that legally, once the judge reviews the evidence, you won't have the capacity to make these decisions. That's the whole point of guardianship, to protect you from yourself." "Protect me from myself." I repeated slowly. Is that what you call it? Simone's grip on my hand tightened. Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. We're trying to help you. Why are you fighting us? Because you're taking away my life, my freedom, my right to choose where I live and how I spend my money. Your money? Derek laughed, actually laughed. Mom, with all due respect, you're not exactly managing your money well. You gave away a $485,000 condo without any legal protection. That's not rational decision-making. That's impaired judgment. There it was. The real argument. The one they'd use in court tomorrow. I gave you that condo because you're my daughter, I said, looking at Simone. Because you promised to take care of me when the time came. Because I trusted you. And we will take care of you, Simone said quickly. At Pine Grove. Where you'll be safe. Where professionals can monitor you 24/7. Mom, you're living in a tiny apartment by yourself. What if you have an episode and nobody's there? What if you fall? What if you forget to take your medications? I have a pill organizer. I have a routine. I have Nancy checking on me 3 times a week. Nancy's not a medical professional. She's your former secretary. Derek's voice was dismissive. Mom, you need real care. And honestly, we need to make sure your remaining assets are protected. You have $315,000 in the bank. That needs to be managed properly. By you. By Simone, yes, as your conservator. She works in finance. She understands investments. She'll make sure your money is used wisely. I looked at Derek, his expensive gym clothes, his leased BMW, his struggling business. Then at Simone, her designer dress, her perfectly styled hair, her manicured nails. And I wondered how much of my $315,000 they'd already spent in their minds. What about the condo? I asked. The one I bought you. What happens to that? Simone and Derek exchanged a glance. Quick. But I caught it. What do you mean? Simone asked. If I'm declared incompetent, if the court decides I wasn't capable of making that transfer, what happens to the condo? Another glance. Derek cleared his throat. Well, technically, if the court determines you were already impaired when you made the transfer, it could be considered an invalid transaction. The property would revert back to your estate. And as my conservator, Simone would control it. That's just legal technicality, Mom. We're not trying to take the condo back. We're just trying to protect your interests. But you applied for a home equity line of credit against it. $165,000. The silence at the table was absolute. Simone's face went pale. Derek's jaw tightened. How did you know about that? Simone asked slowly. I'm not as confused as you think I am, baby. Derek stood up abruptly. This conversation is over. Simone. We're leaving. Sit down, Derek. My voice was sharp, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or recognition that he'd underestimated me. Saturday. Let me tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, I said, my voice steady. You're going to walk into that courtroom thinking you've got this all figured out. Thinking the judge is going to look at a 65-year-old black woman with Alzheimer's and decide she's incompetent. Thinking you're going to get control of everything I spent 45 years building. Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand that Derek's gym is failing. That you're 3 months behind on a $75,000 business loan. That you need money, and you see me as an easy target because I have a medical condition. Derek's face was red now. You have no right to look into our finances. You have no right to look into mine, but you did. You filed a guardianship petition listing every dollar I have. You think I wasn't going to do the same? Simone was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Mom, please. We're family. We're supposed to help each other. You're right. We are. So why didn't you ask me for help? Why didn't you come to me and say, Mom, Derek's business is struggling. We need financial assistance. Why go behind my back? Why try to take away my rights? Because you would have said no, Derek said flatly. You would have lectured us about financial responsibility, about living within our means, about how you and Lawrence built everything from nothing and we should too. You're right, I would have, because that's what parents do. We teach, we guide. We don't just hand over money every time our children make bad decisions. So you'd rather let us lose everything? Simone's voice was desperate now. Let Derek's business fail? Let us lose the condo? Let our credit be destroyed? I'd rather you learn to stand on your own 2 feet instead of stealing from your mother. We're not stealing. Yes, you are. I picked up my phone from the table, stopping the recording. You're stealing my autonomy, my dignity, my right to make my own choices. You're using my illness as an excuse to take control of everything I have. That's theft, and tomorrow I'm going to prove it. I stood up, leaving money on the table for my untouched meal. Mom, wait, Simone reached for me. Please, we can work this out. We don't have to go to court. We can figure something out. You should have thought about that before you filed the petition. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. courtroom 3D. And Simone? Bring a good lawyer, because I'm bringing mine. I walked out of Madison's with my head high, my phone recording safely stored, and my resolve stronger than it had been in years. Behind me, I heard Derek say, She knows. She knows everything. We're screwed. Good. Let them worry. Let them spend tonight wondering what else I knew, what else I'd discovered, what else I'd documented. Because tomorrow, they were about to find out exactly what happens when you try to con a woman who spent 45 years catching con artists. Monday morning, September 18th, arrived with heavy clouds and the threat of rain. I woke at 5:30 a.m., my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. Fear has a way of sharpening focus. So does righteous anger. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, the one I used to wear to important client meetings. Pearl earrings Lawrence gave me for our 30th anniversary. Low heels, sensible but professional. I looked in the mirror and saw the woman I used to be, the first black woman CPA at Henderson and Associates. The woman who'd built a 45-year career on being underestimated and then proving everyone wrong. Nancy picked me up at 8:15 a.m. She took one look at me and smiled. There she is. There's my Phyllis. You ready for this? I've been ready for this my whole life. People have been trying to count me out since 1982. I'm still here. Margaret met us at the courthouse steps. She had 2 associates with her, both carrying boxes of documents. Phyllis, we're as prepared as we can be. But I need to warn you. Simone's lawyer is Robert Chen. He's good. He specializes in elder law and guardianship cases. He's going to argue that you're a danger to yourself, that you need protection. Let him try. We walked into courtroom 3D at 8:45 a.m. Simone and Derek were already there, sitting with their lawyer. Simone looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, her makeup hastily applied. Derek sat rigid, his jaw tight. When Simone saw me, she started to stand, but her lawyer pulled her back down. Robert Chen approached Margaret. Miss Torres, perhaps we can discuss a settlement? Avoid putting Mrs. Gardner through a difficult hearing? What kind of settlement? Limited conservatorship. Mrs. Gardner maintains some autonomy, but Simone oversees major financial decisions. Everyone wins. Everyone except Phyllis, who loses her rights. Margaret's voice was ice. We'll take our chances with the judge. At 9 a.m. sharp, Judge Patricia Morrison entered. She was a black woman in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at the crowded courtroom and sighed. This is a guardianship petition for Phyllis Gardner. Mr. Chen, you're representing the petitioner? Yes, Your Honor. Simone Gardner, the respondent's daughter. Miss Torres, you're representing Mrs. Gardner? Yes, Your Honor. All right. Mr. Chen, make your case. Robert Chen stood, his presentation polished. Your Honor, this is a heartbreaking situation. Phyllis Gardner, 65 years old, has been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. Over the past 2 years, her condition has deteriorated significantly. She experiences confusion, memory loss, and impaired judgment. Her own daughter has witnessed multiple episodes where Mrs. Gardner became disoriented, unable to recognize her surroundings or remember basic information. He presented medical records from Dr. Carter. Reports of cognitive decline, failed memory tests, documented episodes. It all looked damning on paper. Most concerning, Chen continued, is Mrs. Gardner's financial decision-making. 15 months ago, she transferred $485,000 to her daughter for a condominium purchase. This represents nearly all of her liquid assets at the time. This transfer was made without any loan documentation, without any legal protections, without any consideration of her own future care needs. This is classic impaired judgment, Your Honor. Mrs. Gardner gave away her life savings and is now living in a small apartment on a fixed income. He pulled out photos, my tiny apartment, my aging Honda, my simple furniture, making me look like a victim who'd been exploited, when the real exploitation was happening right now in this courtroom. Mrs. Gardner needs protection, Your Honor. Her daughter, Simone Gardner, is willing to serve as conservator to ensure Mrs. Gardner receives proper care, proper medical supervision, and that her remaining assets are managed responsibly. We're asking the court to grant full conservatorship, both of person and estate. Judge Morrison looked at the medical records. Dr. Carter's reports are concerning. Miss Torres, what's your response? Margaret stood. Your Honor, this petition is not about protection, it's about exploitation. May I call Mrs. Gardner to testify? You may. I walked to the witness stand. My legs were steady. My mind was clear. This was it. This was the moment where I proved I was more than my diagnosis. Margaret approached me gently. Mrs. Gardner, can you tell the court about your professional background? I'm a retired certified public accountant. I worked for Henderson and Associates for 45 years. I was the first black woman CPA they ever hired, back in 1982. I specialized in fraud detection and forensic accounting. I saw Judge Morrison's eyebrows rise slightly. Good. And during your career, what kind of fraud did you investigate? Embezzlement, mostly. People who stole from their employers, their clients, their own families. I learned to recognize patterns. To see when someone was lying about money, to follow paper trails that people thought they'd hidden. Mrs. Gardner, do you understand why we're here today? Yes, my daughter wants the court to declare me incompetent so she can control my assets and my life. And why do you believe that's her motivation? Because her husband's business is failing. They're 3 months behind on a $75,000 loan. They applied for a $165,000 home equity line of credit against the condo I bought them. And they think if they can get guardianship, they can access my remaining $315,000 without me stopping them. The courtroom was silent. Simone's face had gone white. Margaret presented documents, bank records showing Derek's failed loan payments, the home equity application. The timeline showing financial stress followed immediately by the guardianship petition. Mrs. Gardner, you mentioned buying your daughter a condo. Do you regret that decision? I looked at Simone, at her terrified face, at the daughter I'd raised, the girl I'd worked so hard to give opportunities to. I regret that I trusted her to honor her promises. I don't regret trying to help my child. That's what mothers do. What promises did she make? That she'd take care of me when I needed it, that this was an investment in family, that I'd never end up in some state facility. My voice broke slightly. She promised me, Your Honor. And now she wants to put me in Pine Grove Memory Care for $2,900 a month, the cheapest facility in Sarasota County, while she controls $315,000 of my money. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Mr. Chen, do you have evidence that Pine Grove is an appropriate facility? Chen stammered. It's a licensed memory care facility, Your Honor. That's not what I asked. Margaret pressed forward. Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence of the trust documents Mrs. Gardner executed 2 years ago when she was clearly competent. Documents that show she understood her condition, planned for her future, and specifically chose Nancy Wilson as her backup trustee, not her daughter. She handed the documents to the judge. Judge Morrison read them carefully, her expression thoughtful. Mrs. Gardner, the judge said, these documents show sophisticated estate planning. You named a backup trustee, established medical directives, created protective structures. That doesn't sound like someone with impaired judgment. I learned to protect myself, Your Honor. I've seen too many elderly people exploited by their own families. I wasn't going to let that happen to me. But you did give your daughter $485,000. I did. Because I loved her. Because I wanted to help her build a future. Because she promised me I'd always have a place in her life. I looked at Simone again. I guess I was wrong about that. Judge Morrison turned to Chen. Mr. Chen, I'm troubled by the timeline here. Your client faces financial pressure, then immediately files for guardianship over assets she previously received as a gift. Can you explain that? Chen stood. Your Honor, the financial challenges arose after the petition was filed, not before. And regardless of timing, the medical evidence is clear. Mrs. Gardner has Alzheimer's disease. She has documented episodes of confusion. She needs supervision. Does she? Judge Morrison looked at me. Mrs. Gardner, have you had any episodes this week? I had a bad morning on Wednesday, Your Honor. Couldn't remember where I'd put my medication. Took me 20 minutes to find them in the bathroom, right where they always are. But I found them. Took them at the correct time. And then I spent the rest of the day preparing for this hearing. Tell me about that preparation. I reviewed financial documents, bank statements, loan records, property documents. I cross-referenced dates and amounts. I built a timeline showing when Derek's business started failing and when Simone filed this petition. It's what I did for 45 years, Your Honor. Having Alzheimer's doesn't erase professional expertise. It just makes some days harder than others. Margaret submitted my timeline, detailed, color-coded, cross-referenced, the kind of work product I used to deliver to clients. Judge Morrison studied it. This is impressive work, Mrs. Gardner. Thank you, Your Honor. I still have good days. Today is one of them. And on bad days? I hesitated. This was the question I'd been dreading, the one where I had to admit vulnerability. On bad days, I get confused. I forget things. Last month, I couldn't remember how to use my debit card at the grocery store. It was humiliating. A cashier had to help me while people stared. Simone was with me. She was embarrassed. How did that make you feel? Ashamed. Afraid. Like I was losing myself piece by piece. I took a breath. But, Your Honor, having bad days doesn't mean I need to be locked away. It means I need support, help, understanding, not someone taking away my rights. Judge Morrison was quiet for a moment, then she turned to Simone. Miss Gardner, please stand. Simone stood, her hands shaking. You witnessed your mother's episode at the grocery store? Yes, Your Honor. And how did you respond? Simone glanced at her lawyer. I helped her. I tried to make it easier. Did you? Or did you make it worse by expressing embarrassment? I didn't mean to embarrass her. It was difficult to watch. I imagine it was. Tell me about Pine Grove Memory Care. Have you visited the facility? Yes. Your Honor, it's a licensed facility. Is it where you'd want to live? Simone didn't answer. Ms. Gardner, I asked you a question. Would you want to live in Pine Grove Memory Care? I don't know. You don't know, but you're asking this court to send your mother there. Why Pine Grove specifically? Why not a higher quality facility? The cost is reasonable. Reasonable for whom? You'd be managing your mother's $315,000. Surely she could afford better care than the cheapest facility in the county. Chen stood. Your Honor, the petitioner is trying to conserve assets for long-term care needs. Or, Judge Morrison said sharply, the petitioner is trying to warehouse her mother cheaply so more money remains available for other purposes, like paying off a $75,000 business loan or accessing a $165,000 home equity line. The judge turned to Derek. Mr. Morrison, stand up. Derek stood, his confidence gone. Your business is failing, correct? We've had some challenges, Your Honor. 3 months behind on loan payments. That's more than challenges. That's financial crisis. And suddenly your mother-in-law, who just gave you a $485,000 condo, needs a guardian. Convenient timing. Your Honor, I love Phyllis. We're trying to help her. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to help yourselves. Judge Morrison closed the file in front of her. I'm going to take a 15-minute recess. When I come back, I'm going to make a ruling. Miss Torres, Mr. Chen, please be prepared. The judge left. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Simone was crying openly now. Derek had his head in his hands. Margaret squeezed my shoulder. You did good, Phyllis. Really good. But will it be enough? I don't know. Judge Morrison is tough. She could go either way. Nancy came up to the witness stand. Honey, you were amazing. Whatever happens, you stood up for yourself. You showed them who you are. But as I sat there waiting for the judge to return, I felt something shift in my mind, a fog rolling in. The clarity I'd had all morning was fading. I looked around the courtroom and for a moment, I couldn't remember why I was there. Nancy? My voice sounded small. What's happening? Nancy's face filled with concern. Phyllis, you're in court. The guardianship hearing. Remember? I did remember. Sort of. But everything felt distant, confused. The worst possible timing. Margaret, Nancy called quietly. We have a problem. Margaret came over, saw my face, and understood immediately. Phyllis, listen to me. You need to hold it together for 15 more minutes. Can you do that? I don't know. I feel everything's fuzzy. I know, but the judge is coming back, and if she sees you like this, if Simone's lawyer sees you like this, it's over. You understand? It's over. I closed my eyes and tried to focus. Tried to pull myself back from the fog. Tried to remember why this mattered. Simone, the condo, the guardianship, my freedom. When I opened my eyes, Judge Morrison was walking back into the courtroom. All rise, the bailiff called. I stood. My legs felt weak. My mind felt cloud. But I stood. And I prayed that my moment of confusion wouldn't cost me everything I'd fought for. Judge Morrison settled into her chair and looked at both tables. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today. Medical records, financial documents, testimony from both sides. This is not an easy decision. My heart was pounding. The fog in my mind was getting thicker. I gripped the edge of the witness stand, trying to focus on the judge's words. Mrs. Gardner clearly has Alzheimer's disease. The medical evidence is undeniable. She experiences episodes of confusion, memory loss, and cognitive decline. These are serious issues that will only worsen over time. No. Please no. However, Judge Morrison continued, having a medical condition does not automatically render someone legally incompetent. The question before this court is whether Mrs. Gardner can still make informed decisions about her own life, her own care, and her own assets. She looked directly at me. Mrs. Gardner, I'm going to ask you some questions. Can you tell me what day it is? The fog was so thick. I looked at Nancy, at Margaret, trying to find the answer in their faces. It's Monday, September. I couldn't remember the date. My mind was blank. What month? September. That much I knew. What year? Silence. I couldn't pull it from my memory. The courtroom was spinning. Mrs. Gardner, what year is it? I'm sorry, I don't know. I heard Simone gasp, saw Chen lean forward, sensing victory. This was it. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. The confused old woman, proving their point. Your Honor, Margaret stood quickly. Mrs. Gardner has been under tremendous stress. This hearing has been emotionally and mentally exhausting. A single moment of confusion doesn't negate everything else we've seen today. I understand that, Miss Torres, but the court has to consider Mrs. Gardner's current state, not just her lucid moments. Judge Morrison looked at me with something like pity. Mrs. Gardner, do you know where you are right now? I'm in court. Because Simone, my daughter, wants. The words wouldn't come. I could see them in my mind but couldn't pull them out. Take your time. She wants to control my money, my life. She wants to put me away. The fog cleared slightly. She wants to put me in Pine Grove so she can take everything I worked for, everything Lawrence and I built. Who is Lawrence? My husband. He died 3 years ago. He was everything. Judge Morrison made notes. The silence in the courtroom was unbearable. Mrs. Gardner, I want to be clear about something. This court's job is to protect vulnerable adults. Sometimes that means protecting them from others who would exploit them. Sometimes it means protecting them from their own impaired judgment. The question is, which protection do you need? I need protection from my daughter. My voice was stronger now. The fog was lifting again, like clouds parting. Your Honor, I've had a bad moment. I admit that. But I've also had clarity today. I've presented evidence. I've answered questions. I've shown you documentation that proves I'm still capable of understanding what's happening to me. You have. And that's what makes this difficult. You're clearly intelligent, clearly capable in many ways. But you're also clearly impaired. Everyone is impaired in some way, Your Honor. Age impairs us. Grief impairs us. Fear impairs us. The question isn't whether I'm perfect. The question is whether I deserve to have my rights stripped away because I'm not. Judge Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. I'm going to deny the guardianship petition. The courtroom erupted. Simone burst into sobs. Chen was on his feet, objecting. Margaret grabbed my hand. Nancy was crying. Order, Judge Morrison said firmly. I'm not finished. I'm denying full guardianship because I don't believe Mrs. Gardner is currently incapable of making her own decisions. However, I am concerned about her future. Mrs. Gardner, I'm ordering that you work with your attorney to establish a structured care plan. Regular medical evaluations every 3 months. Reporting to the court on your condition. An activation of the trust provisions you wisely put in place 2 years ago. She turned to Simone. Miss Gardner, I want to be very clear about something. This court has serious concerns about your motivations in filing this petition. The timing, the financial pressures, the choice of facility, all of it suggests exploitation rather than protection. If you file another guardianship petition without clear evidence of significant decline, I will refer this case for investigation of elder abuse. Do you understand? Simone could barely speak. Yes, Your Honor. Good. As for the condominium, that transfer appears to have been a valid gift made when Mrs. Gardner was competent. It remains your property. However, if this court sees any attempt to use guardianship proceedings to access Mrs. Gardner's remaining assets, there will be consequences. Serious consequences. Judge Morrison looked at me one final time. Mrs. Gardner, you've shown remarkable strength today, but please, take care of yourself. Accept help when you need it. Don't let pride prevent you from getting support as your condition progresses. The court is here to protect you, not punish you. Thank you, Your Honor. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat there, stunned. I'd won. Against all odds. Against my own failing mind. Against my own daughter. I'd won. Margaret and Nancy helped me out of the witness stand. My legs were shaking. The adrenaline that had carried me through the hearing was draining away, leaving me exhausted. Simone approached as we gathered our documents. Her face was blotchy from crying, her eyes desperate. "Mom, please. Can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about, Simone." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was desperate. Derek's business, the debt, I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help. You could have been honest. Instead, you tried to steal my life." "I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was trying to protect you." "No." I looked at her, really looked at her. "You were trying to protect yourself, and you were willing to destroy me to do it." Derek stood behind Simone, silent. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. "Mom, please, don't shut me out. I made a mistake. I know I did, but I'm still your daughter. I'm still family." "Family doesn't do what you did to me, Simone. Family doesn't use illness as a weapon. Family doesn't try to lock their mother away in the cheapest facility they can find while stealing her life savings. I wouldn't have stolen anything. I would have taken care of you. The way you took care of me by excluding me from your Christmas party, by posting videos about toxic family members, by telling me I was an embarrassment." I shook my head. "You took care of yourself, Simone. That's all you've ever done." Margaret stepped forward. "Miss Gardner, you need to leave now. Any further contact with my client will be considered harassment." Simone looked at me one more time, her face crumbling. Then she turned and walked away, Derek following behind her. Nancy drove me home in silence. When we got to my apartment, I collapsed on my couch, the exhaustion finally hitting me. "You did it, honey," Nancy said. "You actually did it." I almost lost. "Did you see me up there?" I couldn't remember the year. I couldn't remember why I was there. "But you pulled through. You fought through the fog and you won. For now." But Judge Morrison was right. This is only going to get worse. 15 months have passed since that courtroom victory. 15 months that taught me winning and healing are not the same thing. Simone tried to reach out 3 times in the first month. Letters, emails, phone calls, I didn't answer. Margaret advised me to maintain distance, and I listened. By month 4, the attempts stopped. I heard through Sister Ruth that Simone and Derek divorced, that Derek's gym went bankrupt, that Simone moved to Tampa for a fresh start. I felt nothing when I heard. Not satisfaction, not sadness, just emptiness where my daughter used to be. My Alzheimer's progressed, as everyone knew it would. The bad days come more frequently now. Last week I forgot Nancy's name for an entire afternoon. Yesterday I couldn't remember how to make coffee, something I've done every morning for 40 years. Dr. Carter says I'm transitioning from early to moderate stage, but I'm still here, still making my own decisions. Still living in my apartment, though Nancy checks on me daily now, and I've accepted a part-time caregiver 3 days a week. The guardianship fight taught me something important. Dignity isn't about never needing help. It's about choosing who helps you and how. Margaret helped me establish the Phyllis Gardner Elder Protection Fund through the local bar association. We've assisted 23 families facing similar exploitation. Each case proves the same thing. The people who should protect us are sometimes the ones we most need protection from. I met Elizabeth Crawford at an Alzheimer's support group 6 months ago. She's 62, early stage like I was. Her son tried something similar to what Simone did. Elizabeth and I have coffee every Tuesday. We help each other remember medication schedules, doctor appointments, the names of people we've known for years. We don't talk about our children. That wound is still too fresh for both of us. Last month, Margaret called with news. Simone wants to see me. She's been in therapy, working at a nonprofit helping elderly people access resources. She's asked if we could meet, just once. Just to talk. I told Margaret I'd think about it. Sister Ruth says I should forgive, that holding on to anger will poison me more than it hurts Simone. Nancy says I should protect myself first, Forgive later if at all. Elizabeth says whatever I decide is right because I'm the only one who knows what I can handle. I still haven't decided. What I know is this: Simone didn't give me Alzheimer's, but she used it as a weapon. She saw my vulnerability and exploited it. And no amount of therapy or nonprofit work erases what she was willing to do to me. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear her apology. Maybe someday forgiveness will feel like freedom instead of surrender. But not today. Today I'm sitting in my small apartment, watching the sun set over Sarasota Bay. My memory is failing, my independence is fading, but my dignity remains intact because I fought for it, because I refuse to let anyone, even my own daughter, steal it from me. If you're watching this and facing similar decisions, remember, having a medical condition doesn't make you a burden. It makes you someone who deserves protection, respect, and the right to control your own life for as long as you're capable. Subscribe if this story resonated with you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because dignity isn't something you lose with age or illness. It's something you fight to keep. And sometimes, the hardest fight is against the people who are supposed to love you most. I don't know what happens next, but I know I'll face it on my own terms. And that's worth more than any guardianship could ever take away. That is Phyllis's story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these stories. Real question: if you were Phyllis, what would you have done? Would you have fought back in court, risking everything on one hearing? Would you have tried to work things out privately with Simone before it got to guardianship? Or would you have just let it happen to avoid destroying your relationship with your daughter? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who has been underestimated because of their age, their illness, or their condition. Someone who had to fight for their dignity when everyone assumed they'd lost it. Someone who proved that having Alzheimer's doesn't mean losing yourself, it means fighting harder to hold on to who you are. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about elder abuse, family betrayal, medical discrimination, and the strength it takes to stand up for yourself when your own mind is working against you. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protection from, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to disappear just because someone finds you inconvenient. See you in the next video.